Alright guys, today we're going to be doing chapter 1 of the Harrowing for 2015. Now, I'm just going to read it out loud so you guys don't have to read it. Chapter 1. Blood on the streets, glory and death, down to the bearded lady. The butcher blades had hung the jackdaw from a rusted marlin spike through his jawbone, and left him for a quayside scavengers. This was the 17th murdered ganger the hooded man had seen tonight. A slow night by Bilgewater standards, at least since Concierge King had fallen. Red-fanged rats had already eaten most of the hanged man's feet and were perched on staked creels to tear at the soft meat of his calves. The hooded man kept on walking. "Help me." The words were wet, squeezed up through a throat clogged with blood. The hooded man spun, hands reaching towards the weapon slung on his wide belt. Incredibly, the jackdaw was still alive on the bone-handled spike. The hook stuck it deep into the wooden frame of a loading crane. No way to get to the jackdaw down without tearing his skull to splinters. "Help me," he said again. The hooded man paused, considering the jackdaw's request. "What for?" he said at last. "Even if I get you down from there, you will be dead by morning." The jackdaw carefully lifted his hand to conceal the pocket in his patchwork jacket, and removed a golden kraken. Even in the dim light, the hooded man saw it was genuine. The scavengers hissed and raised their hackles, and as he approached, wharfed rats weren't large, but meat as warm as this wasn't a prize to be surrendered lightly. They darted long, needle-like fangs, spitting diseased goblets of saliva. He kicked one rat out over the water. He crushed a second underfoot. They snapped and bit, but nibble footwork kept any from tasting his flesh. His every movement smooth and precise. He killed another 3 before the rest scattered to the shadows, sullen eyes glaring red in the darkness. The hooded man stood beside Jackdaw. His features were hidden, but the light of the rogue moon suggested a face that no longer smiled. "Death is here for you," he said. "Embrace it, safe in the knowledge I will ensure it is final." He reached into his coat and withdrew a glittering spike of silver, 2 hands long and engraved with curling symbols spiraling along its length. It resembled an ornate leather-works owl. He placed the tip under the dying man's chin. The man's eyes widened as his hand scrabbled at the hooded man's sleeve as he looked out over the vast expanse of ocean. The sea was a black mirror shimmering with the glow of myriad candles, quayside braziers, and the lamplight warped through salvaged glass from 1,000 cliffside holes. "You know what looks over the horizon," he said. You know the horror it brings, and yet you tear at each other like rabid beasts. It makes no sense to me." He turned and hammered the heel of his palm against the flattened haft of the awl, driving the spike up into the man's brain. At last, corpse rattled and Jackdaw's pain ended. The gold coin fell from the dead man's fingers and rolled into the ocean with a soft splash. The man withdrew the spike and whipped it clean off the jackdaw's ragged shirt. He returned it to the sheath inside his coat and removed a golden needle and a length of silver thread dripped in water drawn from an Ionian spring. Working with the skill of one who had performed this service many times before, he sewed the man's eye and lips shut. As he worked, he spoke words taught to him a lifetime ago, words first ill-spoken by a long-dead king. "Now the dead cannot claim you," he said as he finished his work and replaced his implement. "Maybe not, but we ain't leaving empty-handed. Sure we ain't, said a voice behind the hooded man. He turned and pulled back his hood, revealed the skin under a texture of aged mahogany, cheekbones that were angular and patrician. His dark hair was bound in long scalpel lock, and eyes that had seen horror beyond measure surveyed the newcomers. 6 men, dressed in aprons of blood-stiffened leather, cut to display limbs of corded muscle wrapped with tattooed thorns. Each carried a serrated hook and wore belts hung with a variety of meat workers' knives. Petty thugs made bold by the fall of the tyrant who ruled Bilgewater with an iron fist. With him gone, the city was in chaos as rival gangs sought out to carve out the fresh territories. Their approach had been stealthy. Hobnailed boots, awful stench, and muttered curses had announced their presence long before they revealed themselves. "I do not mind a coin going into the bearded lady, sure I don't," said the biggest of the butchers, a man with a gut so prodigious it was a wonder he could get close enough to a carcass to gut it at all. "But one of ours killed old Knock John there fair and square, sure they did, so the gold serpent there was ours." "Do you want to die here?" asked the man. The fat man laughed. "You know who you are talking to?" "No, do you?" "Go on, then. Tell me so I can convert it on the rock. I'll use to stink your bones." "My name's Lucian," he said, whipping back his long frock coat, drawing a pair of pistols wrought of knapped stone and burnished metals unknown to even the most reckless alchemist of Zon. A bolt of crusading light punched the fat butcher from his feet and scorched a hole where his gratuitous woolen heart had been. Lucian's second pistol was smaller, more finely crafted, and fired a searing line of yellow fire that cut another one of the butchers in half from collarbone to groin. Like the wolf rats before they fled, but Lucian picked them off one by one. Each burst of light was a killing shot. In the blink of an eye, all 6 butchers lay dead. He sheathed his pistol and pulled the coat back around him. Others would be drawn by the sound and the fury of his work, and he had no time to save these men's souls from what was coming. Lucian sighed. It had been a mistake to stop Jack Draw, but perhaps the man he had once been was not entirely lost. A memory threatened to surface as he shook his head. "I cannot be him again," said Lucian. "He isn't strong enough to kill the Chain Warden." Alright, guys, that's part 1 of the new Harrowing storyline. I might do a part 2. This is my first time reading out loud, and oh my god, I'm really thirsty. Dries my throat out. But yeah, if you guys liked it, please tell me. I don't know. This is my first time even making a YouTube video, really. So yeah. So just like it or subscribe or whatever, and